Dear students, hope you are doing well. So welcome once again in history class. Today we will go through the third chapter of history, that is Indus Valley Civilization. It is one of the earliest civilization situated on the bank of river Indus. It's famed for its well-planned cities and impressive crafts. Let us explore the chapter. We will see the extent of Indus Valley civilization and why it is known as Harappan civilization. In the next topic, we will peep into the origin and location of the civilization and what does Mohenjo-daro means. We will look into the main characteristics of the Indus Valley civilization, which will include town planning, in which we will have a glimpse how towns were planned and how the cities followed a grid system. We will look into architecture, which will include different types of buildings, dwelling houses, in which we will study what type of houses were there, public buildings which were used by general public like great granary and great bath. In this topic, we will have an overview of Indus Valley society, what attire the Indus Valley people used to wear, what did they do for recreation and amusement, what type of games they preferred. We will have a glance on various types of arts and crafts of the civilization. How agriculture was the main source of earning for the people of Indus Valley civilization, what goods they traded in and with which countries did they have their trade relation. We will see the different types of seals used in this period, whom did Indus Valley people worship, and finally we will close the discussion with what led to the decline of the civilization. So now let's explore the topic in detail. It is estimated that Indus Valley civilization flourished between 2500 BCE and 1500 BCE. Along with Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilization, it was one of the early civilizations of the world. Indus Valley civilization was one of the earliest urban civilization in the world, known for futuristic urban planning, astonishing architecture, remarkable handicrafts, work in the field of metallurgy. Also, it is known as Harappan civilization because Harappa was the first site to be excavated. The Harappan culture is called Bronze Age civilization because it existed during the Bronze Age, which occurred between 3000 BCE and 1000 BCE. The Bronze Age era was given this name because at this time civilizations started to use bronze and other metals instead of stone to make tools and weapons, extending from what is today northeast Afghanistan to Pakistan and northwest India, which include UP, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab and other. Here on the map you can see the two major cities of the Indus Valley civilization. The name Mohenjo-daro is reputed to signify mound of death. The archaeological importance of the site was first recognized in 1922, 1 year after the discovery of Harappa. Subsequent excavations revealed that the mounds contain the remains of what was once the early largest city of the Indus civilization. For many years after the discovery of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and other nearby sites, it was believed that this civilization was limited to a small area near river Indus. Later excavations, however, revealed that Indus civilization was spread over a much larger area. The Harappan civilization was located in the valley of river Indus. Present-day location is in Pakistan's Punjab and Sindh provinces, respectively. Its extent reached as far as south as the Gulf of Khambar and as far east in the Jamuna River. The map here shows the location and extent of Indus Valley civilization. Here we will see some of the major sites that has been excavated and location in today's world. Lothal, located at Ahmedabad district in Gujarat. Surkotada, which is located at Kutch in Gujarat. Ropar is situated in Roopnagar of Punjab. Children, please have a look on the map. You can see the place. Talibagan is located at Hanumangarh in Rajasthan. Alamgirpur site is in Meerut, UP. Banawali is in Fatehbad of Haryana. For thousands of years, the site was hidden under layers of sand until it was discovered by archaeologists. So these two archaeologists, along with many others, discovered Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Children, we have already come across the term archaeologist in first chapter. I am repeating the meaning of the word archaeologist again. Archaeologist, a person who studies prehistoric people and their culture. Archaeologist Dayaram Sahani discovered the ancient ruins of Harappa in the year 1921, and Mohenjo-daro was discovered by R.D. Banerjee, an Indian archaeological officer, in year 1922. The excavations of the ruins showed a remarkable skill in town planning. The main streets of the roads were set in a line, sometimes running straight for a mile, and were varying in width from 4 meters to 10 meters. The main streets intersected at right angles, dividing the city into squares or rectangular blocks, each of which was divided lengthwise and crosswise by lanes. Here, the word intersected means divide by, passing, or lying across. On the either side of the street stood houses of various sizes which did not protrude into the streets, leading to grid structure. Some buildings had a lamp post and a well. Here in the picture you can see the reconstructed image of the town planning of the Harappan civilization. The main roads were not only straight and very wide but curved at corners. This is a great example of engineering of that era. Why curved at the corners? Yes, curved at corners to allow big carts to turn with ease. Most of these roads and streets were paved with fire-burned bricks. These baked bricks were a superior version of the sun-dried bricks used in other civilizations. The amazing part was that the workers made every brick of same size. The type of brick used ensured the durability of the building. Not only roads, but also there was elaborate sanitation and drainage system which emptied into the river. One of the earliest urban civilization in India, and this is the original aerial view of the Harappan civilization. Children, please have a look at this aerial view of Harappan civilization. Architectural structures can be divided in two parts: dwelling houses, which were residential buildings, and public buildings, which were for public use. Houses in Indus cities were comfortable. It was built around courtyards. Houses range from 1 story to 2 stories in height, with a central courtyard around which the rooms are arranged. An Indus Valley house was cool inside. Thick walls kept people cool in the heat of summer. Some houses had just one room. Big houses had lots of rooms. Stairs led to a flat roof where there was an extra space to work and relax. Most of the houses had wells for water and bathrooms with proper drainage that carried waste into the main drains. One of the most remarkable features of Indus Valley civilization is that the city was provided with an excellent closed drainage system. Each house had its own drainage and soak pit, which was connected to the public drainage. Brick-laid channels flowed through every street. They were covered and had manholes at intervals for cleaning and clearing purposes. Large brick culverts with corbelled roofs were constructed on the outskirts of the city to carry excess water. Thus, Indus people had a perfect underground drainage system. No other contemporary civilization gave so much attention to cleanliness. These cities were made of bricks, either mud or wood bricks. The baked bricks were the superior version of the sun-dried bricks which was used in other civilizations. The amazing part was that the workers made every brick of same size. The type of brick used ensured the durability of the buildings. The picture here shows the reconstructed image which depicts the city had one of the best sanitation systems. Each house had a well from which it drew water. From a bathing room, the waste water was directed into covered drains. Children, you can have a look along the main streets. Since all the streets were well drained, the city remained dry and clean. This evidence of a very modern method of sanitation and sewage. The Great Granary is a mystery to today's historian as to what was its function. Was it actually used to hold grain? Historians have been unable to find evidence to suggest that grains were once held there. So, in the year 1950, Sir Mortimer Wheeler identified one large building in Mohenjo-daro as Great Granary. However, it was supposed to have been used as a place for farmers to store their crops or food grains. This massive building is made of wood on brick foundation and is over 168 feet long and 148 feet wide with 6 large halls and doorways. It has got air ducts which are supposed to dry the grain. The Great Granary is one of the significant buildings of the civilization found in Mohenjo-daro along with Great Bath. Near the granary was the great public bathhouse known as Great Bath. Great Bath was excavated in 1926, whose dimension is 12 meters by 7 into 2.4 meters. Two staircases, as visible in photograph, from north and south, led to the pool lined with bricks in a huge courtyard. The beautiful bath area had a layer of bricks that were held by tar and gypsum mortar, so no water leaked. It had good drainage systems. In the center of the bath area was a swimming pool. The purpose of Great Bath was assumed to be for ritualistic bathing, to purify and renew the well-being of the bathers. This is a practice followed even today in many places. It is evident that Mohenjo-daro was the biggest and wealthiest city in the Indus Valley, which had more significant architectural constructions and better sewage system. Many archaeological evidences prove that Indus society was highly civilized. It was divided into three social groups. The first social group consisted of rich merchants and priests. It was designated as ruling class. The second class consisted of small merchants, traders, and businessmen. The laborer class comprised the third group. The people of the first two groups lived in town areas, whereas people belonging to the third group lived in huts. The dress of men and women consisted of two pieces, one resembling a dhoti for men and skirt for women. Upper garment was shawl worn around the shoulder. From the sculpted figure, it can be seen that shawl-like clothing worn around the left shoulder and under the right arm. Both men and women wore ornaments made of gold, silver, copper, and metals. Men wore necklaces, finger rings, armlets of various designs and shapes. The women wore headdress, earrings, bangles, girdles, bracelets, and anklets. Rich people wore expensive ornaments made of gold, while poor had ornaments made of silk, bone, or copper. Men had long hair designed differently, cut short or coiled in a knot on the top of the head. The ladies of Mohenjo-daro were not lagging behind in styles as used by the ladies of the present day when it came to the use of cosmetics and attainment of beauty. Women wore fan-shaped headdress covering their hair. Materials made of ivory and metal for holding and applying cosmetics prove that they knew the use of face paint. Bronze oval mirrors, ivory combs, of various shapes. Even small dressing tables have been found at Mohenjo-daro and other sites. Women tied their hair into a bun and used hairpins made of ivory. Toilet jars found at Mohenjo-daro show that women took interest in cosmetics. The Indus Valley people liked more of indoor games than outdoor amusements. Singing and dancing were quite popular. People played a game similar to modern chess. They were fond of gambling and playing dice. Dancing and singing were considered great arts. Boys played with toys made of terracotta, while girls played with dolls. Ancient Indus people had a diversity of toys, from figurines of animals to vehicles. Most toys were made out of baked clay. Small carts and whistles are some of the toys children played with. Figurines include monkeys and little squirrels. Indus children may also have played with pull along animals on wheels, as well as rattles and bird whistles, all made of terracotta. Ancient Indians were very clever to think of so many different toys that were unique in their own way. Objects excavated from different sites tell us that Harappan people had made great progress in the field of fine arts. Three types of sculptures have been found. The terracotta figurine of a woman, referred to as Mother Goddess, unearthed at Mohenjo-daro, is a fine piece of art. These people carved out beautiful sculptures from soft rocks or brown rocks. The statue of dancing girl made of bronze has been found from an excavation. You can see in the picture, children. Beautiful pottery dating back to the period has been found by archaeologists. Geometrical figures and tree and animal patterns are painted on them in black. Pottery was used for storage or cooking. Jewelry and amulets made of clay and gold were very popular. Beads of various precious stones were also used for making ornaments or jewelry. You can see in the picture the variety of ornaments used by the people of Indus Valley civilization. The Indus Valley people were agriculturists. They were the first people in the world to cultivate cotton. They grew wheat, barley, rice, cotton, fruits, and vegetables. They constructed large granaries to stock food grains and feed people in towns and cities. Another means of livelihood of the people was domestication of animals like oxen, buffaloes, pigs, goats, and sheep. Horse was perhaps not known to the people. Camels and asses were used as beasts of burden. They domesticated dogs and cats. As ox, bull was used for plowing the field, so it was considered a great asset in the farming community. Domesticated animals included dogs and cats, hummed and shorthorn cattle, domestic fowl, and possibly pigs, camels, and buffaloes. The Asian elephant probably was also domesticated and its ivory tusks were freely used. Archaeologists have found the trade relations not only between different Harappan cities but also between different civilizations. Both internal and external trade were carried on through waterways. They had trade relations with Mesopotamia, Persia, Afghanistan. A number of objects were brought from the countries like Oman and Mesopotamia. Seals found in Sumeria, Persia, Egypt indicate that Harappans traded with these countries. The seals were made of terracotta and were used by merchants to stamp their goods. Weights and measures are evidence that trade was carried through barter system. The most interesting part of the discovery relates to the seals, more than 2000 in number, made of soapstone, terracotta, and copper. The seals give us useful information about the civilization of Indus Valley. Seals have figures of real animals, while a few bear the figure of mythical animals. The seals are rectangular, circular, or even cylindrical in shape. The seals even have inscriptions of a sort of pictorial writing. Most of the seals have a knob at the back through which runs a hole. It is said that these seals were used by different associations of merchants for stamping purpose. They were also worn around neck or arm. The seals were made of terracotta and were used by merchants to stamp goods. We can form an idea about the religious life of Indus people from the objects excavated from different sites. Clay figurines of a female deity have been found at many places. This was probably the mother goddess. Some seals depict a figure with 3 faces, has a pair of horns on his head, and is seated in a yogic posture, surrounded by many animals. Some historians believe it to be Lord Shiva, represented as Pasupati. Many seals also depict the peepal tree, which was perhaps held sacred and worshipped. Here, the word progenitor means a person or thing from which a person, animal, or plant is descended or originates. The origins of yoga can be traced to the Indus Valley civilization more than 5000 years ago. A large number of amulets have also been found. It also suggests that people believed in evil spirits and wore amulets to ward them off. We do not know what led to the decline of the civilization. Historians differ regarding the causes that led to its decline. Some of the causes are as follows: natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, diseases, invasions by the Aryans or some other tribes, a change in the course of the river Indus. Thus, natural and man-made causes seem to be responsible for the decline of the civilization. Nonetheless, though the civilization ended abruptly, it has provided us with an important link to the past. Hi children, hope you all have enjoyed the chapter and is clear to all of you. Please go through the textbook and prepare the question answers. Moreover, as already been mentioned before, please make an oblong copy for history as well as one copy for civics. We will meet again with new chapter. Till then, bye, take care and stay safe.